Do you remember when we had that little conversation about how things had been a little bit difficult? And so to make up for it, I bought myself loads of books to try and make myself feel better. And I said that I wouldn't be buying any more books, but then I bought loads more books because things continue to be a little bit difficult. And what do? I buy more books. Hi everyone, welcome back to this rather large book haul. I have no excuses, I really don't. It has been interesting. And so I have bought books and I should say I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Let's crack on. The first book that I've got was sent to me, so I didn't actually buy this one, so that's a little bit better, isn't it? So this one is Sanatorium, and this is by Sarah Pierce, and I really wanted to read this one when I saw that it was coming out, and it just seemed like my type of book. And so I requested it for review, and here it is. This is about Ellen, who does not want to be spending her time in an isolated hotel high up in the Swiss Alps, but when she receives an invitation from her estranged brother to his engagement party in the Swiss Alps, she feels that she's got no other option but to go. However, when Ellen arrives, it's not the best sort of reception for her to arrive to, because she arrives in the middle of a horrible storm. And although the hotel's beautiful, it has recently been converted from an old sanatorium, which leaves her feeling on edge, as does her brother Isaac. The next morning when Ellen awakes, it turns out that Isaac's fiancée Laurie has gone missing, and no one knows where she is. And the storm has cut off the hotel from the outside world, and so everybody starts to panic and everybody starts to worry about where Laurie's got to. And the longer that Laurie stays missing, the more that the guests panic. But what they don't realise is that another woman has also gone missing, and she could have actually warned them about what was going to happen and how much danger they're in, but she's missing. This sounds like a fun read, and I'm looking forward to getting around to it. The next book that I bought is a little something different. It's this one. This is by Anonymous, and it's I Am a Hitman. And I mean, this has all the elements of an interesting tell-all. This is a story of a man who is a hitman. And he basically comes clean and talks about his life lived between your world and a shadowy underworld of criminals, a life lived under the radar of the law, a life lived in death. And it's about being a hitman. This I bought for my husband to read, but to be honest, I'm interested. I'm really interested in it, so I'm going to read it as well once he's finished with it, because I just want to know what happens. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about that one. The next book that I've got is this one. This is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I recently read the My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix and loved it. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. My husband bought me this, and it sounds fun, and I'm hoping I enjoy it as much as I enjoyed My Best Friend's Exorcism. So this is about Patricia Campbell. Her husband's a workaholic, and her teenage kids have their own lives, and a senile mother-in-law needs constant care. And the only thing keeping her sane is a book club, a close-knit group of Charleston women united by the love of true crime. At these meetings, they're likely to talk about the Manson family as they are about their own families. However, the plot thickens when one evening after the book club, Patricia is viciously attacked by an elderly neighbour, bringing the neighbour's handsome nephew, James Harris, into her life. James is well-travelled and well-read, and he makes Patricia feel things that she hasn't felt in years. But when children on the other side of town go missing, their deaths written off by local police, Patricia has a reason to believe that James Harris is more of a Bundy than a Brad Pitt. Real problem? James is a monster of a different kind, and Patricia has already invited him in. Little by little, James will insinuate himself into Patricia's life and try to take everything she took for granted, including the book club, but she won't surrender without a fight in this blood-soaked tale of neighbourly kindness gone wrong. Now, I've seen a lot of people review this, and I've seen mixed reviews. Some people have really enjoyed it, some people have thought it's a bit rubbish. Since I really enjoyed Grady Hendrix's other book, I'm hoping that I get on with the writing style and that I enjoy it and I find it immersive, but time will tell. The next book that I've got is quite a thick one, and it's been on my wish list for a long time, and it was finally bought for me by my husband, and it is this one, The Once and Future Riches by Alex E. Harrow. Can we just say how beautiful this cover is? It's absolutely my aesthetic. I love this sort of thing. It just is really pretty. It's a thick one. It's going to take me a while to get through. Let's see, how long is this? 516 pages, so it's quite a long read. And so this says, in 1893, there's no such thing as witches. There used to be in the wild dark days before the burnings began, but now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants to find any measure of power, she must find it in the ballot box. When the Eastwood sisters join the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into a witches' movement. Stalked by shadows and sickness, hunted by forces that will not suffer a witch to vote, and perhaps not even live, the sisters will need to delve into the oldest magic, draw new alliances, and heal the bond between them if they want to survive. There's no such thing as witches, but there will be. I love this sort of historical fiction that is seeped with witchcraft and the powers of women and female friendship and all of that sort of goodness. If you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know this about me. And so I'm very excited to get into this one, and I hope that it's a really enjoyable read. The next one that I've got is one I had never heard of before, and it spoke to me. It sounded perfect. And this is The Quickening. Now, this is by Rhiannon Ward, and again, as I say, I hadn't heard of this one. I've not seen anybody talk about it before, but it sounds like everything that I love. So this is set in England in 1925, and it's about Louisa Drew, who lost her husband and her twin 6-year-old boys in the Spanish flu of 1918. And she's now remarried and 7 months pregnant, and asked by her employer to travel to an old hall to photograph the contents for auction. And because she has no other option and she's sort of fallen upon hard times, she agrees. However, upon arrival at the hall, she discovers that years previous, in the 1800s, 1896 I think, the hall was the host to a seance, and the seance brought forth things that have been haunting the family for the last 30 years or so since it happened. And the original owners of the hall have asked that everybody come together again and recreate the seance one last time before the house is sold at auction. And Louisa finds herself embroiled in the strange happenings that begin at the hall. This sounds really interesting. It has vibes of the apparition phase to me that involves an old seance in an old house, and I'm here for it. I really enjoyed the apparition phase. It also says inside that it's for fans of The Familiars, which I loved. Again, it's historical fiction. It has that sort of creepy element of seances and ghosts and all the sort of things that I really enjoy, and so I'm very excited to read about The Quickening. Now, I've got another book by Alex E. Harrow here, and this is The 10,000 Doors of January, and again, it's another beautiful cover. Really very much my aesthetic, and this is a very different sort of story. So this says, at the ward of wealthy Mr. Locke, January Skeller feels little different from the artefacts that decorate his sprawling mansion. Carefully maintained, largely ignored and utterly out of place. But when she finds a strange book, the one that tells us tale of secret doors of love, adventure and danger, for the first time January realises she can escape her story and sneak into someone else's. This sounds quite whimsical and sort of fantastical, and I'm hoping that it's going to be something that I'm going to enjoy slipping into, and as I say, I really quite like the sound of Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, and this one came recommended, and so I hope that I enjoyed this one too. As I say, I've got high hopes. The next book that I've got is another one that was very kindly sent to me, and this is Rosie Goodwins' An Orphan's Journey. And if you were around sort of the back end of last year, I reviewed another one of Rosie Goodwins' books, and I really enjoyed it. I have seen her praised as sort of the new Catherine Cookson. Her writing had all of those sort of feels for me, and Catherine Cookson books have been a genre of their own that I have enjoyed since I was really little. So this is set in 1874 and follows the story of Pearl, who has a life that is full of hard times. She's growing up in extreme poverty in London, and she thinks things can't get much worse. However, Pearl's mum announces that there is another baby on the way, and things have got to change. So Pearl's parents decide that they're going to send Pearl and Pearl's younger sister Eliza to the workhouse. This obviously brings with it a life of sort of hardship, and it's not a very comfortable life at all. But Pearl's hopes are raised when she's offered the chance for her and her sister to get on a ship and start a new life in Canada. This is a sort of a program for unwanted children where they get sent abroad, and they are eventually hired by someone to go and work in their house. And so Pearl's hoping for a brand new beginning. However, when she meets her new employer's son and finds out that he isn't very nice at all, he is in fact a massive bully, she realises that her life isn't going to be any easier than she thought it was. And I'm really looking forward to reading this. I love a good historical fiction, a good family saga to sink your teeth into, and I'm really looking forward to finding out what happens to Pearl and her sister when they arrive in Canada. The next book that I've got is something I'm very excited about. I have loved all Louise O'Neill's other books, and so I picked up After the Silence. I picked it up on Goldsborough Books because it was signed and numbered. So yeah, it's signed and numbered. So I've got number 94 of 100 from the signed first edition. So this follows the story of an unsolved murder. Nessa Crawley was murdered, and it was sort of covered up and forgotten about. So 10 years previous to this book being set, Nessa attended a house party. A storm cut off the house, and in the morning Nessa was found dead in the garden, and no one had heard anything. No one had heard her screams or her cries because of the music and the storm. And so 10 years later, the murderer is still at large. So I don't know if I said, but this all happened on an island, and it was impossible to get off the island that night, and the islanders know who did it, and they've kept the silence for years. So 10 years later, a documentary crew has arrived to basically unearth what happened to Nessa, and I'm really interested to see where this goes because I love Louise O'Neill's writing style. I love her stories. They're always quite brutal and impactful, and so I'm hoping that this one's no different because I've heard very good things about this book. The next one that I've got is a little bit of a treat that I treated myself to because I wanted to. It's this one. I'm saying this one, you can't see what it is because I just held up the dust cover. It's this one. This is Little Women, and it is the Folio Society's version of it, and look at it. It is absolutely beautiful. This has been re-released by the Folio Society, and it has lovely end papers. It's illustrated too, and it's just an absolutely stunning version of a beautiful book. And I really can't wait to get around to reading this one. Look, some of the illustrations are just beautiful. As usual, I mean, the Folio Society do some absolutely beautiful books, but they are quite pricey. As I say, it was a bit of a treat. And it's not something I would normally buy for myself, but I couldn't resist. I really didn't want to miss out on owning this one. It's beautiful. The final book that I've got is a one that I don't know what it's about. This was from my Goldsborough Books Premier subscription, and this is The Art of Death by David Fennell. And I know that this is recently out, and this is a sort of a limited edition version of the book, but I don't know what it's about. And I haven't read it because I want to go into it and be surprised. So again, it is signed and numbered. And I'm looking forward to reading this one because I know there's been a bit of a hype about it, and I just think this is going to be something that I'm going to enjoy. So I'm not going to read the full synopsis on it because I don't want to be spoiled. I like going into books blind sometimes. So I just thought I'd show it to you because it is so pretty. And yeah, so that's my final book in the haul. As usual, let me know if you've read any of them. Let me know if you're going to. Let me know if you sometimes pick up little treats for yourself that are a bit pricey, but you know, you deserve a treat. You do. And I will speak to you all soon. Bye for now.